Alrighty guys, welcome back to another one. In today's video, we're going to take a step back in time and we're going to be putting together the very first thing I ever did for shotguns, which of course would be 16 gauge. I assemble mostly 16 gauge. That is what most of my stuff that you guys see back here is built around 16 gauge. It's my favorite. Now, I started doing all this back in late 2018, early 2019, and that's when Josh started too. So, we got into 16 gauge. I actually got this press right here. This same press you see back here is the first one I ever got. We were doing 16 gauge for a month or two, and then moved on to 12 gauge. Didn't move on, we started doing 12 gauge too, and then I got a 10. We started doing 10. Then 20, 28, 410, and then eventually 24 and 32 gauge. But anyway, what we're doing today is the shell that me and Josh were throwing together literally hundreds of a month and just firing all we possibly could as fast as we could. We burned through so many shells. The very first powder I ever got is this stuff right here, Alliant Green Dot. I still use this stuff all the time. 19. The very first haul I ever got, new primed haul, were these. Brand new primed Shadat 16 gauge hulls. They are primed and skived, which is a good thing. It makes them easier to crimp. The unskived hulls are still thick up here at the edge. They cut the plastic and do not, thin it out up here, which makes it hard to fold crimp, but it is better suited to roll crimping. But anyway, yeah, brand new primed blue Shadat hull, 2 3/4 inch, of course. This being a 16 gauge, they only come in 2 3/4 and 2.5. Of course, if you have either one of those two lengths, you can trim them to whatever you need, but they do come in 2 3/4 and 2.5 from the factory. Now moving on to the wad, that would be the Claybuster Blue Wad, the CB0100-16. They are intended for 1 to 1 1/8 ounce assemblies, or with stuff like long shot back here, you have plenty of room inside the hull for a 1 1/4 ounce assembly with a fold crimp, with any size bird shot you want, really. Fits just fine. But with Green Dot, 1 1/8 ounces is about the most you're going to be able to fit. So we have the original hulls I was using and the original wads. Now we also have the original shot. This jug of number 6 shot right here is actually from the same very first bag I ever got. I did actually break down 4 boxes of these 25 round boxes just to get the powder and shot back out of, because at the time Green Dot was really hard to find and we needed it for some videos. This was about 3 years ago, somewhere along them lines, probably actually closer to 2. But yeah, this is the exact same shot out of my first bag. It is Lawrence. It's either Lawrence or Eagle branded, just a plain Magnum number 6 lead shot. It's not chilled. This is high antimony. It's hard lead. So back then, whenever we first started, we had no idea that there was a difference between a tapered hull and a straight wall hull. All we knew was 16 gauge Shadat hull. There was data for it using Green Dot, and these wads right here, it's about 10,000 psi and 1165 fps for a 1 1/8 ounce assembly. Yeah, that's kind of high psi for that payload, but it is what it is. It's a medium speed powder. It's not slow like long shot. What I was getting at is this wad is meant for a tapered hull, like the old Winchester AA compression forms. In 16 gauge, they are not called AA's, they are just a compression formed hull. They are branded Upland and Dove and Quail. That's all I've ever seen them as. They are not AA target shells. But those have been discontinued for a very long time, and as far as I know, that was the only 16 gauge tapered hull on the market. But Remington does have their 1 ounce game load shell. That one is not a tapered hull. I've said this many times. The hull wall diameter on that shell is literally double the thickness of a Shadat, so it has the thickness all the way down of a tapered hull. So these wads do work for that hull, but we didn't know any of that at the time. We were just sticking this on top of the powder and sending it. we realized that whenever we got clear 12 gauge shells that we were seeing powder just all over the place using the Claybuster wads of, for tapered hulls in the straight wall Shadot Fiocchi hulls, the clear ones. And I actually came up with the solution all on my own. I did not see anyone else doing this. Take a pair of needle nose pliers and pinch out the gas seal. It literally only takes 5 seconds. And now these Claybuster tapered wall wads can be used in a straight wall hull. It's that simple, and we didn't really have many issues without flaring the wad out, the bottom of the wad. Although we did run into here and there a completely dud shell. It just didn't go off. It went pop and the shot fell out the muzzle. And of course we had a barrel obstruction, but we were smart enough to know to check for that and clear it. So we still have all our fingers. So whenever I discovered that tapered hulls existed and straight wall hulls existed and data was not interchangeable for them, I started doing some digging on some forums and online YouTube. I found Wade Rush, Bubba Roundtree Outdoors, and he explained everything you could ever want to know about doing all this. He was and still is like a teacher to me. Probably 95% of the stuff you guys see me doing, I learned from Wade. If you don't know who Wade is, where have you been? Go check him out. His YouTube channel is Bubba Roundtree Outdoors. He is he's an expert when it comes to this stuff right here. Anyway, whenever I discovered you could just pinch out the gas seal on these wads, never had an issue again. I guess we should start putting something together, shall we? 19. And we have the 19, our Claybuster blue wad. You see, that is actually a good fit. If we didn't pinch out the bottom of the wad, the gas seal, that would just fall straight in to about right here. But push that down, and then we'll take it over to our 16 gauge press right here, and you just need to apply a little bit of compression. Whenever you go to crimp this, it'll compress the wad anyway, but I like to give it a helping hand. Inside the wad, I have 1 1/8 ounces of 6-shot. Just plain old Magnum high antimony number 6 shot. It's not plated. It is just plain lead shot. Bring it back over here and we will give it a 6-point crimp. I never have really liked 8s, although with a once fired hull like a factory, it's fine. I don't mind them. I just don't like doing 8s on new hulls. The only thing different that I'm doing that I did not used to do when I first started, that was a train wreck of a sentence, is I'm now using a Rabasator. You really can't beat them for new hulls. You can get factory looking shells out of them. I cannot live without one of these anymore. Actually guys, I forgot one thing. An overshot card. What we used to use for an overshot card was just a piece of balled up paper towel. That was it, but I have since evolved into using nitro cards or legit overshot cards. This was just a one section of a 32 gauge nitro card. That's it. But let's get our 6-point crimp back on here. Take it over to the Rabasator. How this thing works is you just pull down. I thought this was pretty funny. If you have your shells stuck in the Rabasator like that, it's usually a pretty good sign that went ahead and closed your shell up for you. I guarantee you, yep, it did. It went ahead and closed it up for me. But like I've showed before, whenever it does that, which seems to be most of the time now, the top of the shell is mushroomed out at the top just a little bit, but that's fine. Whenever you run it through the final crimp of your press, it will look like a factory shell. For example, this should also have a little bit of a taper on it. I've noticed that with these Shadots, the Fioccchis do not do it. The Rios do. After using the Rabasator and then a final crimp, the Shadot and Rio hulls will have a slight taper on them. For example, man, you guys can see that clear as day this time. That beveled edge right here has a legit taper. Not much of one, but it is there. And as for the crimp itself, well, I mean, I guess it speaks for itself. It's a really, really good one. I just did another one off camera. Maybe you guys can see what I'm talking about after using the Rabasator, which is the one on well, you'd be your left. That is straight after the Rabasator. I think you guys can see the difference in how the Rabasator kind of mushrooms them out a little bit. Now, I'll run this one through the final crimp, and it should look just like that one. And yeah, now they are exactly the same size. It's kind of funny how the Rabasator kind of, for lack of a better term, mushrooms the shell out before crimping. It's kind of cool. Not really. I'm going to do one, the same thing, without using the Rabasator this time. Throw overshot card on, make sure it's centered. Throw a 6-point crimp on it. Now, again, no Rabasator this time. You guys should be able to see the difference. The crimp will still look okay, but nothing at all like that. Now, we'll turn the camera around and get you guys a view of it. And yeah, that looks okay. That looks fine. Nothing wrong with that at all. But it's not a factory shell lookalike, for lack of a better term. Okay, so the one done with the Rabasator is the one on the left. The one that is just straight press is on the right. The one on the left looks a lot more like a factory shell to me than the one on the right. If you look at the set in the crimp, you'll notice the one right here on the left, the Rabasator, is a lot deeper set and is completely even. They do both somewhat have a taper, but the one done with the Rabasator does have a much better one. And, well, you guys can just see the one that is just straight press is not completely even with the depth all the way around. Trying to pan it around, but I think you guys can see it. The one on the right is just far better. Right here is actually a pretty good showing of what I'm talking about. You can see the one on the left, again, the one done with the Rabasator, is a lot more even and uniform than the one on the right. And everything inside is exactly the same. Here's a couple of the Fiokis I was talking about. They were actually just sitting back there. I was doing a few of these earlier. But the taper on the Fiokis is, again, not as pronounced as it was with the Shadats. But the Rabasator does a very, very fine job with Fiokis too. Doesn't really matter what haul you use. They come out great just about every single time. Again, I can't live without these things. And they're cheap too. They're like 25 bucks. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed taking a trip down memory lane with me. We're going to shoot these tomorrow at some clays. Today is August 23rd. We are filming tomorrow. So, it's also my wife's birthday today, or actually tonight, so I better get off here, shouldn't I? Anyway, we want to thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe. We always appreciate that. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down in the comment section below, and we'll get back to you. And if you want to, go check out our Patreon. It's as low as $1 a month, and you guys get early access to content. Every penny we get goes right back into the channel. A link to that, as well as a link to our Instagram, Rumble, and merch store will be in the description below. But other than that, you guys take it easy, and we'll see you in the next one.